All right, sorry for the delay. I tried to do this and it said live streaming isn't available right now. Not what I wanted to see. So, welcome back. I am Julie of Jaybird Quilts, and this is the next installment in our Delight Sew Along. And today we are going to go over fabric placement. So, this is my design wall, and I have begun to put my blocks up here. And while people come in, I'm going to start putting some more stuff up. If you have any questions, ask them in the comments. Rachel is here to answer them, and I will answer them live as well. So we're just going to jump right on in. If you are hopping into this video and you're not sure what's going on, we are doing the Delight Sew Along. This is the third video, fourth if you count the Q&A. And so you can get the pattern, local quilt shop, many online quilt shops, and sign up for the sew along. You get all the emails with the discount codes to the shops and all the additional information. Like Rachel will put the link in the comments. And the first video, we focused on fabric selection. So you'll recognize a bunch of my fabrics from that. And then the second video, we worked on fussy cutting. So these are all of my pieces that I fussy cut during that second video and since then. And then today we're going to work on fabric placement. So there's two ways to go about this. If you look in your pattern on pages 4 and 5, page 4 goes over how to sew the blocks, which is what we're going to do in a couple days, but I'll talk about that. And page 5 goes over the layout. I like to know if I've done my fussy cutting and if I'm doing a really planned out quilt, I like to know exactly where everything's going. If I have less busy things, like my original one, I'll just go for it, sew my blocks, and then kind of throw them up all on a design wall and figure out where they go there. But in this case, I like to lay everything out, and that is because mainly two things. It has a lot to do with my background. So because I'm using this pink and this purple, and I want there to be good contrast off my blocks, some of my blocks are going to pop better off one or the other. So for example, this face from Curiouser is looking really good with this purple. Doesn't look bad with the pink, but say I put the pink instead. It's really low contrast. So that's going to blend in as opposed to pop. So I want to pick things where they're going to pop. And just the same, this pink is popping off of this chipmunk where the purple blends in a little more. Make sense? So I am going to just lay out the entire thing on my design wall, and then I'm going to go ahead and pull my blocks down and follow the directions on page 4 to sew my blocks. So how I do that is literally this. So I have a few different design walls. What this is a 4-foot by 8-foot piece of foam insulation board from a home improvement store. So this is what it looks like before I covered it. I have an uncovered one here. It is about 1 inch thick, and I covered it in batting. This is Warm and White from Warm and Natural. I like having the white as opposed to a cream or something so that it can pop off. And you can see there's a million threads on here from other projects. Every once in a while, I will lint roller it. I used to staple it to the back, but I would find that over time, sometimes the staples would come out. So I've actually found the most success with spray adhesive. I think I use that Aleene's that you can find at a lot of craft stores. So I make it a little project, go out to the garage and do my spray and stretch it over to the back. And one of the best things about this is it's totally portable. So I can pick this up, super light, and I can carry it around. So if I start laying out a quilt far from my machine, I can bring it by my machine. If I want to move it out of the way, or I have multiples, I can pull them in front of each other if I'm working on more than one project at a time. All right, so see, I'm going to put that up there, and I think it's going to pop off of the purple better. So I definitely want to put this in a place where it's going to pop off the purple, but I think I might want it a little lower since it's a face and another face. So I'm going to grab a different one. So I literally just have my whole stack in front of me of my pieces that I've cut. And I am just going to play until I find, yeah, I definitely want this one to be off the pink, not off the purple. So I'm going to put that one here. Let's see, any questions so far? Calm before the storms, sunny day, snow tomorrow. Not here in California. It's cold here though. Hawaii. Oh my, I was going to say my mom's in Hawaii. It's my mom who's saying hello from Hawaii. What are the chances? Well, welcome wherever you are visiting us here from today. And so the green can pop off of either one. So the green is more, where do I like it? And something to remember at this point is nothing's permanent. We're not sewing right now. We're planning, we're playing. So put things up and then you'll decide, you know what? I've got my pinks too close together. I've got my greens too close together. This is a time to just kind of play and see how things start to shake out. Let's see. And this is really this is obviously live on YouTube, but this is really a live peek inside my brain of how I work. This is what I do when you don't see me. Is I'm just playing. One thing that I do after this is I often kind of sit and let it, for better lack of words, marinate, and walk away from it, because you will often change your mind and see things differently. I will also use my phone. Your phone is a fantastic tool. When you see things at the scale that they are, you miss things. When you see them tiny on your phone, you see them differently. So I almost always snap a picture, because when I see it small on my phone is when I can see, oh my goodness, I put all of my darks in this one corner, or I put all of my reds over here. Also, I don't have pets. I know people say that cats are very guilty of knocking design walls and walking on the floor on top of your things and messing them up, but I do have children. Children can be just as guilty sometimes. So when you have a photo, it's a good insurance policy of sorts that if something happens, you can go back and look at your photo, and see, okay, that's where I had that planned. And it looks like, yes, Kathleen said also black and white photo. So you could take it in color and turn it to black and white, or you can use black and white settings in your phone. That's another good point. Seeing it in black and white can make you focus on the contrast, and the value as opposed to just the colors. There really is no right or wrong answer. And there are quilts that I have noticed when something is finished that I put things too close together. And I can guarantee you, I'm the only one who knows that. Nobody in my family or nobody that I've given it to is like, wow, she put all of those snake prints on the right half of the quilt. I don't want this thing anymore. But at the same time, we put a lot of time and effort into our projects and we care about them and we love them and we want to make them as best as possible. And one thing I often talk about when I teach, especially in person, which I haven't done in quite some time, is I talk about our skills being a toolbox. And every time you take a class, regardless of who your teacher is, every time you watch a video online, you are growing your toolbox. And it might not be a skill that you use today. It might be something that you use in the future, or it might become something that you end up using all the time and it becomes a new part of your routine. But I look at everything as a tool and you're sticking it in your toolbox and you're learning and you're growing. I learn all the time. I grow all the time, new things. And so do you. And if you want to, I highly encourage you to. And so think of things as your toolbox, as you're getting, some new things and you're learning and growing so that you can be the best version of you and have the most skills. In my toolbox is hand sewing. Don't do it very often. Hand embroidery. Don't do it very often. I have done hand quilting. Don't do it very often, but it's in my toolbox. I know how to do it. I've taken the time, I've invested it, I've learned how to do it. And it's the kind of thing that when I need to pull it out to add a little bit of something extra, someone's name, something, whatever, if I want to hand do a label, I can do it. Labels, on the other hand, I haven't talked about labels in a while. Labels is something in my toolbox that I use all the time. I am a very big proponent of labeling. You made your quilt and you know how much time and energy and effort and all those great things you put into it. But unfortunately, not everyone else does. And down the road, if your quilt gets lost or stolen, that's really the only best chance of it getting back to you is having your information on there. And so I am, a big fan of labeling. I can't remember who, someone did a workshop at a quilt shop that I taught at, and that I worked at a very long time ago. I worked at a shop, I don't think it's around anymore, called Country Quilt Works. It was in Pennsylvania. And someone taught this workshop on labeling. And one of the examples she brought in was a quilt she bought at an estate sale. And this quilt had around the border all of these hand embroidered handprints and things. And you could tell so much love had been put into this quilt. And there was no name, no text, no information, no year, no nothing. And that was just this kind of moment that like broke my heart a little bit, because you realize that this all meant so much to them. And that one part had just skipped their consciousness. And, obviously it was either passed on to someone or someone passed away, whatever the situation is. We now don't know the history. We don't know, was it made by Susie? Was it made by Billy? Was it made by Josie? We don't know who made it. We don't know where he or she lived. We don't know anything else about them. And I just kind of find that a little bit sad, because I know how much time and effort and energy I put into my quilts, and I want that preserved as much as possible. That's it's not a guarantee that if a quilt is lost or stolen, it's going to get back to you. It's not a guarantee that your family's going to love it and treasure it and keep it and all those things. But I guess it ups the chances, is my theory. So let me know if you guys would be interested in me doing a little, not necessarily a sew along, but maybe a quick little video or whatnot on my labels. I think I've kind of mentioned them here and there, but one thing I really love to do is I piece my labels into the back of my quilts. And that way they can never be cut out. They're quilted in, and if you tried to remove them, you would end up with a hole in the quilt. So it's just like, I look at it as one more level of security. If something was to get lost or stolen, I will be honest, one of my quilts was lost once and it did never come back to me, and it did have a piece in label. So it either got trashed somewhere, or someone is enjoying my quilt knowing it's mine and didn't decide to return it, which is sad, but also the reality. The other thing is, when we get to the end of a project, when I get to the end of a project for sure, I'm tired, I'm done, stick a fork in me. And by putting a label on your quilt before it's bound, it removes a step. It removes any excuse from you or me to say, oh, I don't want to do that. That's one more level of stuff that I don't feel like doing right now. The label is on before the binding. So it's another just aha, have it done moment. So as you can see, I am just kind of going for this here. I have how many left? I think I have like 7 more left. Because I'm doing the baby size right now. So I feel like it's pretty good so far, but like I said, I'm going to take a picture. I'm going to move back. One thing I will say is that this red, it's from the collection. It's actually the same print as the background, but for some reason it's really sticking out to me. I couldn't find a place for it till now, and I don't know if I'm happy where I'm putting it per se. I think when I used it in my first one that was lap size, and I had 3 of them, I think it really balanced itself having 3. But I think if there's only 1 of it, it's kind of stealing the show. Tell me if you agree. I feel like it's smacking you in the face right now and being like, look at me. And of all the things, it doesn't deserve that. This face deserves that. The raccoon deserves that. The snake deserves that. The flamingos deserve that. This is a blender. She doesn't deserve to get all the attention. So I think I might take that out and put something else in its place. Let me know your thoughts. I appreciate you sharing them with me. I think that's got to be going next to a purple somewhere, so maybe. And this is the other thing, is now that I'm down to a handful of pieces, this is where I'm going to have to start shifting, because I'm going to find that I'm left with too many that don't work at the bottom with each other. And so it's going to be a game of musical chairs. And when we finish today, this is almost certainly not going to be my final layout. After we wrap up before Friday's live, I'm sure I'm going to change my mind. I'm going to end up taking pictures, like I said, and I'm going to walk away from this. I'm going to do some other stuff, spend some time with my kids, and I'm going to come back and go, you know what? That piece isn't working. That needs to get moved. This needs to be over here. So until you sew it, nothing's final. And even then, if it's really not working and it's bothering you enough, I have learned the hard way, take the time, use your seam ripper, take it out, and, just put something else in. I have, if you watch the last video, you see I have a very large collection of Tula fabrics. So I have a lot to pick from here. So I'm not limited to just what I've already cut out. If something else is going to work better, see that I like. That purple is not screaming at me as much as this is. It's really bugging me. What's everybody else saying? Karma, if they kept it. Does grab the eye. It's smacking. Does stand out more. I love red, but maybe not there. Yeah. See, I just think it's not doing it for me. Could stick that one in there. So I'm gonna have to cut another one. I'm gonna have to find a different fabric, and that's okay. This is also, I have to remind myself often, this is my quilt. There are no rules. So while I kind of made these unwritten rules for myself of one of each in this, there's nothing that says I can't just cut a second one of this or a second one of this if that's what I want, So now I'm down to needing 2 more. So let me finish putting the rest of my background pieces up and we'll see where I land. So when you start to lay your pieces out, I suggest you kind of do, which is what you can either do what I said in the beginning, which is follow the directions on page 4, sew your blocks, and just arbitrarily pick. Half of them are fabric A, half are fabric B. In my case, they're purple and pink. They may or may not be purple and pink for you. Or you can decide to do it like I'm doing it, which is lay it out. Lay it all out and see which ones pop better off of which other ones. Now this blue is kind of bugging me. Where do I want you? So it's like I don't want it too close to this one, and I don't want it too close to this one. So I kind of go off of like a tripod, and I want to make like a triangle. So I think that's actually where it's going to go best. So we're going to take that light one out. And let's see. Yeah, I think that's going to work right down there. And so I'll put this one up just for the purposes of filling in the rest. So this is the layout if you were to do a baby. And those directions are, as I mentioned, on page 5 of the pattern. That red is reading as a solid from here. You're right. That's another thing to think about that you see when you take like a small cell phone photo is I'm sure from your distance, this is reading as a solid. This is probably reading as close to a solid, close to a solid, close to a solid. Same thing with this and with this. And they all do have a print to them. And like this one, for instance, is half orange, half blue if you really get in on it. But from a distance, it reads differently. And you also have to think about what is your end goal for your quilt? Is this a piece of art that's hanging on the wall that's going to be looked at like this? Is this a quilt for your bed? Is it a quilt to cuddle with on the couch? When it's a quilt for my bed, I will often not put my favorites at the top because those will often get folded down. I will often put my favorites kind of right here and right here because those are the front corners of the bed. And that is the first thing you see when you walk in a room. when you're looking at a bed quilt often. You'll also see up here, you'll see everything, but you're immediately drawn to what is physically closest to you, which is going to be the corner of the bed. So I will think about what will be in the corner. And so if this was for a bed, say this was a queen size, I would not have this here because this is really a featured section. So I would make sure it was the owl or the raccoon or something that I really wanted to see all the time. We have a quilt on our bed upstairs. It is a Northern Lights made out of Tula pink fabrics. And I know what side of the bed I sleep on and what side of the bed my husband sleeps on. So I was very deliberate in exactly what was going to be on my side of the bed. Not that I didn't give him good fabrics, but I made sure the things that I wanted to see all the time were on my side of the bed. It's my quilt. It's my bed. I'm the one making it. He just likes that it's there and keeps him warm. So, this is my side of the bed. So if this is a bed quilt, I might make sure that the snake is right there because then I would be seeing it. So I hope that makes sense. So any other questions? Let's see. I agree with the dark triangle. What did I say about the dark triangle? Did I say anything about a dark triangle? Dark hexagon. So yeah, so I think I'm definitely pulling this one. The purple doesn't bother me, even though it's, if you looked at a black and white photo, they're probably the same value. But for some reason, the purple doesn't bother me. The purple's just kind of pulling off of some of the other ones where there's just something about this red. And if I pull up a photo on my phone of the original one, let's see if I can show that to you. Can you see that? The red doesn't bother me. Now you're seeing it right now because you're focused on it because we've been talking about it. But I think because there's 3 and I did that triangle, it didn't stand out as a problem. I have 3 of the blue, 3 of the purple. It works when there's multiple of it. But it's not working here. And if it's not working, take it out. So I'm going to take this out, stick this aside, use this on another project, and I'm going to find something else to cut for that. So if you have more questions on layout, if you want feedback on your layout, this is a great opportunity to use the Facebook group, our Facebook community, Jaybird Quilts Sew Along. Take a picture of, you should be taking a picture anyway, so you have it on your phone in case it gets knocked down and so you see it small. Take a picture, share it to the group and say, anything sticking out at you? Do you see any problems? Do you like where I'm headed? And the group will share their opinions and their feedback and help you if you're a little unsure on where you're going. So I hope this was helpful for you today. I have 2 sick kiddos upstairs, so I'm not going to stay extra long. If there's any more questions, I will answer them. And otherwise, if you have additional questions, if you're watching this recorded, or if you are watching this live and you think of them later, please ask them in the comments. Rachel and I will come back and answer those. It might be that it's not a color. It just isn't working. One last thing to consider with your placement, it's a good thing I mentioned this, is your binding. So I know what I'm going to use as my binding, and I'm realizing I now have a problem. So it's good that I'm realizing this now. This may or may not bother you. I know this will bother me. So I know that I am going to use this lazy stripe as my binding. And since I know that I'm using this as my binding, I don't want it to touch itself. And the main reason for that for me is it's just not going to have that same impact and that same pop. So you can kind of go around your quilt, make sure you're doing well. And then if you're me, you get up to here and you go, uh-oh, ruh-roh. So I am going to need to move this one and make sure that this one is not on a border. So that is another thing to consider is what are you using to bind your quilt? And would it bother you if it touches itself? It might not bother you. I don't know where that piece went. It might not bother you. But if you're like me and it's going to bother you, it's something to think about. If you got the whole thing pieced and then realized this was on the outside and it's bothering you, another solution is change your mind on your binding. I've already purchased this and this is my binding, but there's nothing that says I couldn't just stick this in my stash and buy another binding. The last thing is to consider your backing. Do you care, what your binding looks like on the back? I care, but it's not my primary focus. But I do want to make sure it looks kind of cool. So that's what my back's gonna look like. So I bought this fabric. This is the wide back. So Moon Garden is now in stores, and a lot of our sponsored shops have it and have the wide backs. And so I ordered this, and it just arrived, and I love it. And so this is the Mama Geo to partner with the Baby Geo, which is the background. And so if you're wondering like the scale, like that is the difference. Like how freaking cool is that? Um, so, I know someone just said you can't even tell the triangles have a pattern. True, they kind of probably just blend in and look like pastels. I'm sorry I've like chopped my head off a lot today so I can show you the whole quilt. I'm realizing that's probably a little weird. You can't see my head. But you can't wear the fabric than my head, let's be honest. So this is the Baby Geo, which is one of my two in the background. And this is the pink one. And they made Tula made the Mama Geo in both of these fabrics. But I picked the purple, probably because my mom is rubbing off on me her love of purple. Thank you, Nancy. That was very generous of you. I'm doing this, for free. You guys purchased the pattern, but I always appreciate additional support. It's very much appreciated. Helps me continue to give this content to you. So I will be back here on Friday. We are going to go over assembly on Friday. And I will go over my tips for how to sew the triangles to the hexagons, how to sew once they're together, they're a block, how to sew the blocks together, and then how to use the hang pin technique to sew the columns together. And then we will briefly talk about how to bind a quilt that is not square or rectangular. And I have a video where I've already shown that, so we will link to that. So yes, I will see you back here on Friday. And again, if you have any other questions, please just ask them in the comments and we will get to them. And I look forward to seeing photos of your in progress in the Facebook group. Oh, one last thing. Flannel. Someone had a question about flannel. So I did make this quilt out of Holiday Homies when Tula re-released it as flannel. And Rachel actually has that one. Because many of you probably know I'm Jewish. Rachel's not Jewish. She celebrates Christmas, so made her a Christmas quilt. The thing with flannel is a less dense weave. So it tends to fray a little more and stretch a little more. So I'm not generally a starch fan, and I didn't use starch when I made it. But if you're a starch fan, that might be helpful for you. The other thing is, if you're not a starch fan, just be super careful. Don't be messing with your pieces and pulling them apart and stretching the bias. And I think I would suggest pinning more. When I get to the next step, I don't generally pin to sew the one triangle to the hexagon. I do all of that, and then I start pinning once I have my triangular blocks and I'm sewing my blocks together. But if I was doing it with flannel, and when I did it with flannel, I do suggest pinning at this stage, putting one pin here and one pin here to minimize movement. If you have any other questions about flannel, other substrates, and whatnot, let me know. The more I look at this, I'm wondering if I have enough of this backing to cut one hexagon from this. And I would have to move things because I wouldn't want it in the purple. I'd want it like in the pink. Like, how cool would that look if like one was that? I think that would look really cool. I think that might be my answer. Hopefully I bought enough backing. This is 108, so there should probably be enough because this is a baby size and I don't need the full 108 inch width. I think that might be my solution. So look forward to seeing your photos in the Facebook group. If you enjoyed this video, please comment, like, subscribe, all that fun YouTube stuff. The more views we get on here, the more it helps me out and the more I can continue to provide this content to you. So I will see you back here on Friday. I hope you have a good rest of your day. Thanks.